Hello, how is everyone out there doing? I am here with the fantastic Sheldon Stovall. And Sheldon and I met online. I was out there searching for some authors for this event, really focusing this month on those kind of goals, life hacks. And Sheldon wrote this book, and I'm not going to take too much of his thunder. What I'm going to do is share the link to his book in the chat. And Sheldon, I'm going to let you just share, like we were just talking backstage. There's a story, and that's really what, like, why people want to tune in. Like, what is the story behind the story? So as I'm getting your link ready, if you can go ahead and start sharing your story.
All right. Hi. So my name is Sheldon Stovall. Nice to meet you, Amy, in person, finally, on video. I am also known as Pastor Sheldon, for some of those who do know who I am. I do a daily Bible study every day, just connecting mental health and faith, which is something kind of brand new to the scene. And if I can just give you a little backstory. Last year around this time, actually, early November, my son, he's been diagnosed with schizophrenia. And so I hear from my son every day, like for years, every day, call me about this, call me about that. And all of a sudden, if I don't hear from my son, he's probably in the hospital. So I'll call the hospital. Hey, what's going on? Because it did take me years to teach him. I'm also a licensed counselor, how to, when he's not feeling himself, to go to the hospital. Like, right, he might not be taking his medications. Maybe something's going on mentally. So it took me years. So I do know that he does know how to do that. So, of course, I hadn't heard from him a few days. I said, okay, well, maybe he's in the hospital. So I called the hospitals. They said they hadn't heard from him. I said, well, when's the last time he was there? They said, oh, early October. I'm like, early October. So that was different. And so I got worried, very worried. So I called around to a few local hospitals in the region, just kind of see if he was there. No, haven't seen him. Tried to contact his mother. I couldn't reach his mother. One of his cousins, hadn't seen him for a while. And then his best friend, who, if she doesn't see him, she'll call me. And she called me asking, have I seen him, which got me very nervous. All right. So fast forward around this time, my older brother had been having some issues with substance abuse. And so, the family was going along with him, trying to work with him. And then all of a sudden I stopped hearing from him. Now, these are the most closest people in my life. Like my son, he's with me every day since he was a child. And then my older brother, who I was around every day as a child. So even at my age, I still called my older brother like every day. And so now he's gone. And so right around March, I got so worried, I started getting depressed. And then my brother was found deceased. He was found dead. And that just took me, it just took me out there. I just fell into a deep depression. I walked out of my job, didn't even go back to my job. I couldn't even speak to anyone on the phone. I'm married, my wife, I couldn't get out of bed. My poor wife, I can't believe I'm telling people this, but I wouldn't even get out of bed, even shower. I wouldn't eat. I couldn't do anything. I just could not function.
You were just in your grief, in the state of grief.
Correct. And never thought, I counsel people all the time about grief and, you do this, write a letter, But when it hits you, it's a different experience, right? And especially as a counselor, you just can't get up and say, hey, this is going on because, this is my field. These are my colleagues. So I just fell down. And so God, I couldn't even pray to God, but I just picked up my Bible and I started reading chapter 1, 1 Kings chapter 1. And I just was reading it. And I decided to kind of do like a little bit of a little study for myself, just remember what I wrote. So I wrote a little summary and wrote how that kind of I dealt with that mentally that day. And then I put a very small goal, which I didn't even do, but I put a small goal of what I wanted to do called spiritual goal. And I did an exercise just to try to get myself going. And so, boom, I did it. I shared it on Facebook, nothing, just so I could keep for myself. Next day, read 1 Kings chapter 2. So I started noticing what I was reading was like coming alive. Like, oh my God, like these people are actually dealing with grief. This king is dealing with grief. God is grieving for his people back to Israel. I started like connecting it. And so I just, So the next day I started writing that. So I wrote a summary about what I read. Third day, fourth day, I got to probably about 15 days in, and I just saw how, Elijah prophet, which was one of the people in the Bible in that chapter, was dealing with depression, and how he asked God, he didn't want to be here anymore. Like, if you could get me out of here, the queen wanted him dead, all this, and God sent an angel and said, "Fear not, I'm with you." And right then, something just awakened in me, and I stood up out my bed, and I stood up and I got up and I walked around the house. I'm like, oh my God, God does understand your issues. We don't hear about mental health issues in church. Well, I don't. In the religious circuit that I grew up in, they don't talk about anxiety, depression, grief, loss, nothing like that. Those terms that you mentioned. And so as I read these things, I just started noticing how these things are very real, like the grief, the loss, the depression, all those things are very real. And God actually knew that people were going through it, right? He sent angels to him. He fed them because he was, hungry. Like, they were dealing with famine. He fed them. God started taking care of them. And so after I got up, I just said, God, can you please take this depression away from me? Can you take this? Because I can't function. And he did. And it just came off me just like that. And didn't even realize how to check my numbers on Facebook and all that. I had over 100,000 people that were following these daily Bible studies every day. And so from there, I just decided to kind of put them in a book, which the first book is Restored. And then we're talking about Unbroken today. So this is where this came from. The Restored book, it kind of started out slow, selling on Amazon. 200-300 copies kind of went out the first month, which wasn't, I don't know. I thought that was a little. I was told that was not, that was a lot. And so
that is more than the average indie author sells.
Is it? Okay.
It is. So
I was told that. And then Unbroken came out, which is a continuation of my first one, which is Restored. And so I don't know if it's a gift or just something that just came to me. But when I read the Bible now, and I always read chapter by chapter, I'm seeing mental health in it. I'm seeing how people can get help with their mental health. And so the purpose of this and the testimonies that I do have, which I can't get into because I normally have a half hour, but people are getting better, right? So as a clinician, even I have family members that are psychologists, psychiatrists, medicine can treat you, therapy can treat you, but it doesn't guarantee you that you're going to get better. But what if you got therapy every day? Would that make a difference in your life? And that's what these books are doing for a lot of people. These daily Bible studies, the books that I'm writing, they're literally daily scripture readings, prayers, mental health exercises, mental health connections to what they read. And it's very personal to whatever you're going through: grief, loss, OCD, bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, etc. And from what I've heard so far, this has been going on for the last 4 months. We do have testimonies of people who have already changed. Their life has changed. Their mind has reset. Because there is a moment in life where you can reset. Even in substance abuse, I was a therapist for 2-3 years in the rehab, and this is how I got my clients to understand: you're not gonna be stuck in being an addict all your life. Once you're stopped using for a certain amount of time, your brain is going to forget that pleasure of that addiction, whatever it gave you that pleasure, and your mind will reset. And so this is where these scriptures, these exercises are doing now. They're helping people reset their mind and get better.
So I think you have a lot of power in the story, and we've had some really great authors today. And one of the things that has been through the day, this is why I theme them, is because, people have these moments, right? And you brought up this part about you advise people on this, but when you went through it yourself, you're like, oh, this is how I'm going to grieve counsel. This is very
Yeah.
different now for me.
Oh,
And one of the authors we had this morning that I really loved was Satanya Martin, and her book is all about stress baking. And she lost, unfortunately, her mother and her sister within 6 months.
yeah.
And of all the coping things, what she found was actually that baking is what made her feel better. And from
Yes.
doing that, she actually was able to heal, and she did all this research on it, and then of course made this book. We've also had like the author who was right before you, Alex, talked about how he was diagnosed with MS. And
Yes.
from that, he
Oh,
started using physical.
correct.
Really, he became a vegan. Now he was 23 years old, and he ended up just realizing it's what you put in your body. And I really
Yes.
kind of want to connect all the authors through the day. It is that mind, body,
Body and soul.
spirit.
Yes.
You have to combine all these three things. So
Yes.
you mentioned you're there, you're bedridden, you're lying in the bed, you're just like, I'm not getting up. How was this connection? You start reading, and then you said, I got up out of bed and I rose up. Can you share a little bit about this kind of mind, body, spirit connection and what it was like for you? And then how you want this book to be, and both these books, to be able to help those who are reading them to overcome these really adverse things that we go through in life.
Yeah. So in the middle of my own grief, as you mentioned, my emotional pain and my spiritual wrestling, God showed me that my story was not just for my survival, it was for someone else's breakthrough. So I knew when I was writing this book that it had to be written because the silence would keep others stuck, but the transparency would set them free. And just coming with the title of pastor and licensed counselor, right? These are big titles, not the biggest. I'm not the president, right? But people do respect people in this field. And for me to be able, and by the way, today's my brother's birthday, and I'm sitting here on the interview, right? So this is more power, like, right? This is evidence of the power of God and the Word of God. And for a lot of believers, like I mentioned, we do not connect the two, right? So you don't hear anyone talking about, God will heal me from bipolar disorder, right? You don't hear those things in religion, and why not, right? So when I began reading these things, I was looking for help, right? I'm a successful author. I've had books written since 2008, right? So I'm a successful author. My wife's a successful author, which I think she's going to be on your show soon.
I
Right?
certainly hope so.
Right. So even me quitting my job for a little bit and take some time, like that wasn't going to hurt us too much financially, right? But this was something more connected to my spirit and mind that I didn't know what to do, right? I've heard even worse horror stories than what I mentioned, but it's never hit home, right? It's never hit right here. And for my father, and by the way, my son, he ended up calling at the end of July. He was inside of a program. All the way out in Boston. So even that was a blessing for me, right? So God showed me, okay, right now you need some time for yourself and figure this out. And I was able to actually happily tell him I had written some things that could help you dealing with your schizophrenia. And for the first time, he said, "What? Are you serious?" He said, "You think you can help me?" And for me, that was like an amazing moment, right? So he's right now doing my newest one, which is Kept by the Lord. That's First Samuel, and that deals with a little bit of what we're talking about: schizophrenia, bipolar mania, and there's exercises in that for daily for that as well.
Yeah,
But
I think that exercise part is so important. That ability to
correct,
just take what you hear and
correct,
apply it. And no matter what it is you're doing, I
yeah,
featured earlier Jennifer Harshman, and she included me in anthology. And part of what I really wanted to do, as I was talking about emotional intelligence, but it's like not just talk about emotional intelligence, but really give exercises for people to work that. And I think
correct,
when you could do the workbooks, we also had Winsome Duncan share some workbooks, and that part about I'm not just reading it, but now I'm like exercising it and
Correct.
applying it. I want to take a minute real quick and just talk about the show a minute. 24 authors in 12 hours is an author helping author event. And our goal here is really to just take some great authors, get their messages out, make it so you can hear the stories behind the book. We do accept donations. We do have some pretty cool merchandise if you want to go and check it out for anybody out there. What I do want to say is none of this is mandatory, and all of our authors are here because they are amazing authors. We are not charging anything. My goal is to never charge anything. My goal for these donations and things is so that I can continue to run the platform. You know, you do pay a little bit of money to run websites and to have like streaming services and things like this. That is my only goal. My goal is not to make a profit. My goal is just to share amazing stories of other people because I believe in that karma and the universe. And I will tell you, one of the best things about the program once I started it is people send me free books. And
Oh, wow.
I love just getting free books in the mail. It is by far one of the most exciting things. And so you learn things every single time I have a different author on this show. I just go, oh my gosh, like I had no idea. And this thing that you've brought up of the church and mental health, I think that you've brought up something that's missing for so many people and so many people. And if you're comfortable with sharing this, I know this is not something we talked about. Could you open up a little bit? You kind of cracked it, but I really want to open up this whole shame that you're not allowed to talk about mental health in these environments. Because I will tell you, I when you said that, it gave me chills. I was like, oh my gosh, like that is something. And one of the people in the chat wrote about these things being put together because so often instead of being allowed to explore that mental health piece, you're taught, no, the dogma says I'm just gonna be stalwart. And if you would just open up about that, Sheldon, I would really appreciate that.
Right. Well, first of all, the number one pain, and thank you for even bringing that up because I did kind of go mull over that quickly. The number one pain point that my books address, Restored, Unbroken, kept by the Lord, is feeling broken and unsure if healing is still even possible. So right out of the gate, I speak to the reader who feels emotionally wounded, spiritually exhausted, and disconnected from hope. Right. So when we think about Christ, we think about religion, we think about hope. Right. But it's not brought in. And this is nothing against any pastor or anyone. I hope this does not go to a national issue for me. But a lot of our pastors are not educated in mental health. Right. They did not go to school. Not everyone, but a lot of our pastors are just not educated in mental health. So when I'm reading the Bible, let me give you a quick example. When Jesus was getting ready to be taken away by the soldiers, he was in this garden called Gethsemane. I hope I said that right. And the Bible has said that he was overwhelmed, right? So I saw the word overwhelmed. I teach symptoms all the time on anxiety. Overwhelmed, number one symptom, right? And then he started having physical symptoms, right? He was sweating so thick, he was sweating so much, it was like drips of blood, right? That's what it said in that passage, right? So he had a physical symptom. So the next thing he did was he got on his knees and he said, Father, if it be your will, take this cup from me. Take this from me. He was anxious. He was afraid, right? Those are symptoms of anxiety. That when I read that, that's what I saw, right? So you can only, when you're reading and interpreting something that you're reading, you can only read what you understand or what you can see. You can identify what you can see if you understand what I'm going with that. And so a preacher that didn't go through that type of training, right, he or she may not see that as such, right? But when I read it, that's what I saw, right? And so when I said, like I mentioned to you, when I said I could not get any help, I couldn't go to my colleagues, right? Because, I'm known for getting people well through rehab and, not returning back once they go to my programs. And, I've had the longest person that's been sober in my practice was 5 years, talking with me every week, twice a week. So anyone that's dealing with any type of addiction, you can talk with them twice a week, right? That their insurance will pay for, right? And, so I'm known for all these type of things. And then for me to fall down, right, all the way down, deep into depression, I mean, it was like a slide too. It just, I don't care how powerful you are in church, how many messages that you have people screaming and hollering and fainting and preying on people, right? when you get to that place of emotional pain and brokenness, you fall. It's like you're on a slide. You just go straight down. It's like a trap door, and you just go straight down. I've never experienced it. I've read about it. I've heard about it, but I've never experienced it. Right. And so there's nothing I could even reach for, like in messages that I preach, motivational speaking events I've done, even colleagues that I know in this arena of ministry, where anyone can say, hey, except for, hey, pray and ask God to help you. And when you're in that situation, that's not going to, that doesn't really do much for you. Right. So I was in a place where I was disconnected from hope. And so reconnecting mental health and faith means that God has been talking to us about our mental health all along. Like this has been going on all along. God has been fully aware of it. And he told his son, Jesus, back in the garden, he said, listen, I can't do this for you because this is your destiny. So any father that hears their son saying, Dad, help me, I can't deal with this, we're going to reach in and we're going to help them. Right. For me, when I asked, can you help me? He took it right away from me because that was something I couldn't bear. I couldn't handle that grief. I couldn't. It was the two most closest people in the world. It was more powerful than even when my mom passed away because these people were right here next to me. Right. Each day I spoke to both of them, one ear with my brother, one ear with my son. So when they were taken away from me in that degree, and I felt that pain, there was no faith I could reach to. And it's because it's not being taught, because it's not understood.
And you bring up a great point I want to touch there is the hermeneutics that a lot of people don't understand. It's a fancy word for like understanding ancient script. And really it's looking at the fact that if I'm going to do a historic, social, rhetorical analysis and you're going to do one, we're going to get different things out of a passage because we have different experience.
Correct.
And it is so incredibly important that people understand this and that when they hear interpretations and biblical interpretations, no one is giving you that divine word. People are interpreting it, but I'm going to look at things, as I point out to my readers all the time, through a feminist perspective. I'm going to look at things of like, I'm a woman and these are the abusive that happened to my people. Yep. You're going to look at this and you're going to say, I understand this because my son is in mental health. Yep. Unfortunately, we are getting to the bottom of the hour. I do want to just share with everybody, I put my books out there. I've put Sheldon books out there. Supporting authors is so important, and please please subscribe, please share. And like I said, if you want to be on the show, if you want to share a story, I do this at absolutely no cost. I want to open it up back to you, Sheldon, for this kind of last, what have we not talked about that you really want to share to this audience?
So I want to thank everybody for listening. I want to thank you, Amy. I want to say this, these 3 devotionals that were written for anyone who feels tired, wounded, or even unsure if healing is still possible. And the names are Unbroken, it's Kept by the Lord, and also Restored. So each book meets you where you are emotionally, spiritually, and mentally, and walks you towards restoration, freedom, and peace. So my heart is that you don't just read these devotionals, but that you experience real healing, right? Renewed faith, and a deeper relationship with God. So this journey is not just about perfection. It's about progress, purpose, and God's restoring power in your life. And I'm hoping that, when you get a chance, go on to Amazon.com. You type in my name, Sheldon Stovall, which is already there. And you take a look. We have paperback, we have ebooks. And it's not something that you're going to read through in a day. We want you to read one step at a time. And I'm going to tell you this, that the same way God will step me up, the same way right now, my son is currently stable. He has not been in a hospital. He's been reading Kept by the Lord since last month. He's on his 5th day. The whole thing was getting him to continuously concentrate on doing it. He's doing the exercise. He calls me about the exercises after he finishes them. And he's not been in the hospital. He's taking his medicine. He hasn't even been in an episode. I'm not saying that this is the fix-all thing, but this is something newly introduced that is working for people. And so who does not want to get better? So give it a chance and let God bless you.
And follow Sheldon, like, subscribe. Thank you so much, everyone. We're going to go to James Woosley next. And just appreciate everybody out there. Thank you so much, Sheldon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.